how are we going to pay for everything in the beginning? Because how many years did it take to go from predominantly writing checks to moving up to credit cards, where my mom was telling me they used to check, and my dad too. They used to check your card in a book, and the Amex or whatever would send a book out every single month, this book. And when you wanted to use your charge card, is what they called it then, not credit card, they would have to look your number up in the book and make sure that the bank hadn't cut off your card, because when they cut off a card, they put the number in the book, or if it was reported stolen or something. There was no computers to backdate. So if you used a card, it was like a little bit extra difficulty, and they had one lane just for cards because they had multiple people looking up in the books to find your number. And then if it was good and they didn't find your book and the charge cards in the number, then you could charge your thing. That took a decade plus before even anything remotely, and I guess not manual, found its way in there. So think about moving over from what we know is, unless there's an integration of credit cards and stable coins, they're going to be two separate systems. So how are all the vendors, how are the shops, and how are these places where you buy gasoline or you buy bread or you buy anything going to have the infrastructure to be able to and train the people to be able to take your payment in the new system of money called stable coins? Like, that requires its own set of infrastructure, and people have to understand, like, at least what deposit addresses are, or what an address is, a receive and a send address. Like, at the basic minimum, just the person at the counter is going to have to understand all this stuff. Like, you're teaching them Indian or Egyptian hieroglyphs half the time. Like, what do you mean? So this is the system we're moving to. So think about how difficult it was just to literally open a book and then find the number or not of your charge card that was valid or invalid from the company, compared to now. Somehow at the store, they're going to have some sort of readers, and somebody will probably have to enter a receive address, or they'll copy paste something like this in there, back and forth with the wallets on your phone into their system. It's going to take a minute. Like, even just to buy stuff is going to be taking a minute as the new system comes in. Because before Ransom and I were talking as well, if this thing flares off and it goes, it's not going to be like it was in World War II, for example. Like, how long did it take for America to get in there? 5 years? No, actually more, because if you go way back to when Japan was already in China and that whole area was flaring off, we were years and years and years away from Pearl Harbor when that was happening. So we're talking like a decade before it went through its completion in World War and then back out again. This time, that's not going to be a 10-year thing. It's going to go flash in the pan, boom. And then suddenly we come out of this, and these people are going to have just mere months to learn how to learn an entirely new monetary system to be able to take your payment to give you the goods you want. Forget about you understanding the system, like how your phone works with the wallet or it doesn't. Forget that. That's on you. I'm saying the person in the store learning all this new technology just to accept your payment is going to delay things tremendously, especially if it's hopefully they have classes for people in like import-export roles on how to do all this stuff too. But it's going to be a retraining. As much as it took to retrain somebody to learn a computer, or go from the typewriter to the word processor to the computer, they're going to have to go from credit card system straight into stablecoin system. And I don't think there's going to be an interoperability of, like, the old way we did it is not going to work. Unless those credit card companies issue their own stable coins, that coin is inside their card. And this is where it goes right back into it. Whoever participates in the system as a company will generate the money of the new system themselves, along with the good or service that they offer. But that good and service they offer is actually the backing of the value of the company to issue that many stable coins. So the more value they have, the higher that cap is on their companies, the more stable coins they can issue against it. So it's going to be like creative accounting to get it as high as they can, because the higher their valuation, the more stable coins they can issue. And it's just it'll work in the beginning. It'll be brilliant in the beginning. But after a while, it's just not going to work, because every single company, it'll be like, if you go back in the 1850s, 1840s in America, every single town had its own bank. And when I say own bank, I mean bank for the town. There was nothing else even remotely related to it. And they could even issue their own paper like chit in town, or scrum or skrill or whatever you want to call that, where people can trade things around. They would even have their own money printed for their own banks. Thousands of them in America like that. So again, you got to think the stablecoins are going to be like that for every single company. Like Walmart's going to survive, of course. Target, they're going to issue their own stablecoins. Like some of the big behemoths, BP Oil, they'll have their own stablecoin. You can either have theirs, because if you know you're going to use it a lot to buy that product, like most of us buy gasoline pretty regular, you could probably get on their system and have an auto converter convert that over to BP tokens all the time. Or maybe it's a $1 equivalent, but whatever it is, we're going to have to start re-interacting with all of this. And I don't understand how, with thousands and thousands of companies, they're going to be able to combine blockchain smoothly enough for thousands of stable coins on multiple different platforms or chains to come in and be settled. How do you go through 3 or 4 or 5 chains onto a main chain, a main net, and then send all those broadcasts and those shards back out to get them to reassemble, to validate everything on the backside and make sure that the ledger's correct? These are the things that they're looking for, that just, there's going to be a little bit of, it ain't going to work perfectly in the beginning, but then that'll be, I don't know, the first people to lose money in a stable coin issued by a corporation, not the ones from the government, but the corporations, then that's going to send everybody into a tizzy as well. So you can just see, like, I wouldn't call it a bank run, but like a token run off of corporate back into, because people are going to run away with their money if they can. But then again, these companies could just lock all, no, you can't take it away. You can only spend it here. You can't spend it anywhere else. So the reason I'm long-winded intro here is, how are we going to be able to pay for everything in the future? If, like Ransom was talking about in the beginning, over in London and in England and Vietnam and all these other countries are really starting to get into this digital thing. You have to give a retinal scan. You got to give your palm print. You got to give a vein print off of here, all 10 fingerprints. They actually scan your face. All these kind of, the next bad thing is going to be taking, samples of your blood next time you go in the airport, DNA sampling. But how are we going to be able to pay for everything moving forward? Because if this war end that Ransom's looking at tonight here, and the whole movement of the money system, which already began, by the way, when the Genius Act had started, it's not as if we're waiting for this conversion to happen. It's already legally happening. All the legislation's passed. It's live. It's grinding away, and has been for weeks. That's why you're seeing all this brand new news about stablecoin issuers and these other companies going on the stock market to issue even more. Like Gemini just jumped up on the market, had an IPO. Again, this just like validates the behemoth of these new money printers that are coming into existence, that have more valuation just for printing the money and holding the digital asset than most companies do making real physical products. So we're already in that world there. Still tossing and turning. The modern world can really take a toll on your body's circadian rhythms, the internal clock. Curious about better sleep naturally? Check out these blueberry lemon sleep mushroom CBN gummies. Reishi, lemon balm, valerian root, with full spectrum hemp extract that may support a sense of calm. Ready for a better night's sleep? Click on that link in the description box below. Hemp Lucid Blueberry Lemon Sleep Gummies. So how are we going to pay for everything moving forward? Question. So Ransom, I know you're going to go somewhere with the idea of us. Can we go back old school and just pay gold and silver for everything?
No, they're not going to let us do that. We're going to do this. Watch.
Gold and silver back for everything, or is that not going to work?
No.
Why not?
They will at first, until they get it all. But let me tell you the way I think it's going to break down here.
Wait, can you step back there? What do you mean until they get it all? They'll let it happen until they get it all. What you mean? You'll be allowed to spend it and they'll just bring it in every night from the vendors?
What I mean is that they'll set up a system that you can use to pay with that stuff. But because most people, the general amount of people, the regular population, aren't going to have that much in gold, silver, or other precious metals, they're going to run out of it really fast whenever things get hard. So they're going to use it for monetary, to keep themselves. But what's not going to happen is everybody's not going to be using their phones. They're not going to be using their phones because it's going to be too risky, right? And they're going to have to come up with an answer to this because all of the banking and biometrics and IDs and everything is going to be intertwined with the phone at first. They're going to have to deal with this situation that they're, in my opinion, when I say they is, the vague idea of people out there with powers. I don't know exactly which country or which entity will do it, but they have a benefit of getting rid of the phones. And why? It's because cyber
What if the
attacks
companies
here,
have to send their autonomous drone out to do your retinal scan and then credit your account from their drone flown from their facility out to you to identify you digitally?
now, if a drone's going to come to you, it's going to be to deliver you a pizza or a warhead. They're not going to worry about that kind of biometrics. The phones will be
No,
too
to
hard
scan
to
you to
use.
allow those transactions to complete.
They won't need that because you're going to
You just
take
won't
a
have a phone.
chip. You're going to take a chip if you want to buy and sell.
You and your chips and dip, man.
Well,
Frito Lays, and I'm
the
not doing any
phones,
Frito Lay. A bag of Frito Lays, I don't want it.
let me explain it. The phones will be too dangerous. They're going to sell the idea that everything is too hackable. Your credit cards can be copied, cloned, your phones can be hacked, and all of these different apps leave you vulnerable, and everybody's going to want all these apps. So you're going to switch over to a proprietary chip from one of the main companies. I don't know which one or if it'll be government backed, but you're going to do it because that'll be the only way to interact with all of these digital currencies and any of the exchanges or companies that you want to buy from. You're going to have a chip to prove your identity and biometrics on the spot. And they're going to be telling you that. And the reason for that
Well, you have to
is
update that thing every 6 months or a year. They're going to pull it in and out, in and out, in and out of your arm all the time, or what?
no, they're just going to update it with new software. It'll be an upload. And
Wait, why can't some computers can't update from Windows 10 to Windows 11 because they don't have the right? Excuse me, it escapes me. It's kind of a chip in there for the processing power that allows it to run at a faster speed and everything because there's so much garbage associated with just the operating system. You can't even upgrade from Windows 10 to 11 if you don't have the proper hardware.
you can,
So at
they
what
just
point?
don't want you to. You can. They can write a program that can make the old hardware use anything. They've been doing it for years. They can do that to anything. It's just like, you just put a new program in there from it to read, from binary over to their new quantum coding, which would be all. It'll be like, it's like a zip file. They just keep getting it smaller and smaller. You remember when zip files were
Yeah.
new, and you could put a whole bunch of stuff, and you could crunch it down into smaller data and smaller data. You could put a zip file in a zip file. That never creeped you out back in the day, how they could just shrink data down and down. But it'll be like that with your chip. Um, and the reason for that is all these digital currencies and the biometrics measures that they'll have. And then when people run out of the precious metals, what's going to happen after that is their mortgage will be the only asset that they have left because there are no jobs anymore. None of the jobs. So they'll give this little window for the transitional wealth and the inherited wealth and the, stuff that you've saved and stuff like that. You'll be able to use that slowly. But for most Americans, that's going to be their home because that's the only thing that they have as a real asset. So because they'll have it all digital, you could just go to the supermarket and buy some groceries on a reverse mortgage until you don't own property. Then there will be no property. Then there's no
You'll
need
have
for
no
the
money, and then
population.
what do you do?
I don't know if they're not, on the corners selling their behind. There's not going to be much that they could offer because everybody's going to be in a robotic digital world. The holdouts will eventually give in, even if it takes a whole generation, slowly selling away their real assets because that's all they'll have.
But how do you stop the money from hyperinflating after you give in the new money? See, that's the whole thing.
Well,
Because you're leaving the doctors out of it too. Are you telling me that every one of those surgeries to put a chip in or take a chip out, that the insurance companies and medical industry aren't going to be all over that like a duck on a June bug, man? And then the hardware makers too, like how many billions or tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars are you? Every single human on the planet, that's 8 billion a year upgrades, man. You're going to need that for the hardware manufacturers too. So are you telling me you're going to leave all that money on the table from all the medical industry and all the hardware industry when we could still chip humans and you want to leave that money on the table? You're fired. Planet Earth is not for you, my friend.
Well, I
The
think
farm Earth, you need to go back to Jupiter, because if you can't handle it on Earth,
I think the problem is that people are stuck on this idea of money, and the elite and the corporations know there is no such a thing. They make the money, they give it value, they made it so that you need it, not them. They need you to fight over it in the rat race. So once they understand that they can get rid of money and make it digital, what will essentially happen is you'll have shares in companies and groups tied to your digital chip.
please remember civilizationcycle.com and also buy me a coffee /civilization cycle.